You have been tricked that hypnosis is real or not. What comes to mind when we hear the word hypnosis is someone controlling someone to do something, or someone being commanded to backtrack it. Or sometimes we do see the hypnotist swing a wristwatch or a watch back and forth. It is almost very easy for us to have these ideas at the back of our minds. Sometimes we see the hypnotist engage in behaviors that seem very odd or weird.
Found it.
Where was your mom?
Yeah, why the noise? Sometimes these scenes in the movies are filled with dramatic music that play in the background.
Your fingertips. Now I want you to relax your legs. You're beginning to feel your eyelids getting...
And sometimes the hypnotist may talk in a certain way that makes us just want to throw down.
Focusing and following the flow of my words as you're flowing and floating.
Doesn't it just make you want to
Focusing on
punch
my
him?
command.
I'm Nero and welcome back to the Cognitive Nomad. In continuation of our theme on false memories, we are looking at the relationship between hypnosis and our memory. We're going to be looking at how this state of consciousness has been celebrated and dismissed for its supposed power over our memories, particularly when it comes to recalling events that actually happened, and in the case of false memories, didn't really happen. I hope that so far you're not in a trance by the sound of my voice. Anyway, what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is typically defined as a state of heightened suggestibility, perceptual alteration, and focused attention. It is a distinct state of consciousness where people become more open-minded to external suggestions. Individuals report that under hypnosis, their behavior and experiences seem more real than they actually are. People who are susceptible to hypnosis also report that their behaviors seem automatic, as though they are being controlled by someone else. There are different approaches to hypnosis, ranging from direct or authoritarian suggestions to non-direct or indirect methods of hypnosis. While some approaches may stress formal induction to trance to enhance responsiveness, others might highlight contextual characteristics and state changes of the hypnotic context to enhance suggestibility. If hypnosis is real, where is it applied? In a systematic review and meta-analysis, Huerta and colleagues identified 5 major applications of hypnosis which are dependent on the specific aims associated with the domains. The first being hypnosis. It involves the use of hypnosis for clinical health purposes. Its application vary from alleviating somatic symptoms, decreasing distress for medical procedures, modifying disordered physiological and biochemical functions, and augmenting physiological or biochemical healing processes. Treatment sessions may last anywhere from 20 to 50 minutes and include several phases, which we are not going to get into detail in this video. However, it is important to note that in the clinical application of hypnosis, the hypnotist only proceeds with the procedure with your consent. The second application is hypnotic communication, which includes all forms of suggestive communication, including suggestions given without the induction of formal trance and suggestions given to patients under anesthesia. This category also applies research findings from hypnotherapy to improve communication between the doctor and the patient. And then there is hypnotherapy, which is psychotherapy with the patient in trance. It is hypnosis utilized to induce positive changes. It aims at improving problem management through access to the patient's own resources, facilitate behavior changes, restructure cognitive and affective structures, reframe emotionally sensitive events and sensations, and reintegrate inaccessible feelings. The research-based experimental hypnosis is purely dedicated to scientific investigation. And then there is the state hypnosis, which we're all familiar with. Given the application of hypnosis across domains, what do we know about its role in enhancing memory? Public opinion and anecdotal evidence tend to suggest that hypnosis is highly effective in enhancing memory recall. This effect has led to the application of hypnosis in clinical and forensic settings. With no reference to Nigeria, hypnosis has become quite common with the police and law enforcement who have used it to refresh the memories of crime witnesses. The FBI even went as far as establishing a team consisting of an FBI coordinator, a professional hypnotist, and an artist for hypnotic interrogation. Furthermore, a set of guidelines were established for the use of hypnosis in interrogation by this team. The actions of the FBI is inspired by hundreds of cases in which hypnosis seemed to lead to solving hundreds of long-pending open criminal cases. However, this general understanding often deviates from information from experimental studies. Experience continuously attests to the fact that hypnosis does not reliably improve recollection of memory, even when utilizing forensically relevant or emotionally stimulating case reports or stories. Laboratory experiments have largely been unsuccessful in demonstrating the memory-enhancing role of hypnosis when compared to ordinary memory states. These studies have used proper control groups and have properly held extraneous variables constant. Studies that have examined the relationship between hypnosis, hypnotisability, and accounts of memory, like false memories, have concluded that while hypnotisability may be associated with false memory reports, hypnosis in itself does not reliably improve memory recall. Moreover, systematic reviews by Moshala and colleagues indicates that techniques such as hypnosis and dream interpretation can lead to the formation of false beliefs or memories in a substantial proportion of individuals, with some studies reporting induction rates exceeding 50%. Now, despite the use of more ecologically valid stimuli like videotapes, pictures of crashes, dramatized crime scenes, and made-up stories with family members even providing supporting accounts, there are still no significant effects of hypnosis on recall of memory. Why this paradox? It seems the subjective feeling of remembering more or more clearly under hypnosis doesn't actually translate to accurate recollection of memories. The difference between anecdotal and empirical data regarding hypnotic memory enhancement is due to many challenges in measuring enhanced memory accurately under hypnosis. Though the general belief is that human memory is like a video recorder faithfully recording and playing back all experiences. In relation to hypnosis, we cannot overemphasize the reconstructive nature of human memory. The phenomenon of recollection through hypnosis can significantly distort a witness's memory, perhaps through suggestions or cues by the hypnotist that blend with initial memories. We need to remember that the process of retrieving memory itself is imperfect, and various factors such as lapse in attention or heightened emotional distress can influence both recall accuracy and the subjective experience of remembering. Misleading feedback, suggestive language, or guided imagery can prompt you to vividly recall events that actually never happened. In anecdotal reports, what we might consider as enhanced memory might actually be accurately described as a highly confident but false memory when we go into the lab setting. To better understand this discrepancy, Marilyn Smith outlined several differences between experimental research environment and the real-world context. The first being the nature of the material to be recalled. Laboratory studies often involve verbal, non-meaningful materials such as word lists or nonsense syllables. These are considerably less vivid, emotionally engaging, or contextually rich compared to the dynamic and visually intense nature of real-life settings. Results in the experimental context really cannot be generalized to real-world or real crime situations. Crime scenes are typically associated with intense emotional arousal and psychological stress, conditions that are rarely replicated in experimental environments. Furthermore, there is no empirical support for the claim that hypnosis may enhance memory specifically under traumatic conditions. In actual crime scenes, learning is often incidental rather than intentional. Imagine witnessing an event or witnessing a crime scene. I do not think you are consciously trying to memorize every detail associated with the experience. On the other hand, in experimental settings, intentional learning paradigms are often employed by the researchers. It is also important for us to understand that in lab settings, participants often have the idea that their actions have no real world consequences. However, you and I both know that whatever we say in court may actually impact or affect a person's life positively or negatively. Nevertheless, there have been efforts by researchers to simulate high-stakes situations in laboratory settings, which have generally failed to demonstrate superior recall performances. Perhaps the most obvious or not so obvious difference involves the elevated suggestibility of individuals who have experienced a hypnotic session. Hypnotized individuals are more likely than non-hypnotized individuals like you and I to accept misleading suggestions or leading questions even when they have been demonstrated to be false. This heightened suggestibility raises substantial concerns in legal settings because hypnotized individuals may express high confidence in distorted or fabricated memory. To be clear, I am not claiming that hypnosis in itself is broken, but in the case of enhancing recall for memories of events, the evidence presented is screaming that it doesn't work. Clearly, our memories might be more vulnerable than we might assume. Understanding these vulnerabilities will empower us to develop strategies to protect our minds and reduce the risk of false memories. So, here are some strategies that can help you, as well as myself, to reduce the risk of false memories. Our memories are incredible, but they can change every single time we access them. This is where writing becomes a superpower. Whether it's a journal or a digital note, or just jotting things down just after an event has occurred, writing things down creates a tangible record that preserves the original detail of the event. You can also learn to scrutinize your own recollections. How? You might ask. By consciously reevaluating the memories and seek out cues or pieces of information that either support or refute the information that you claim to be a true memory. If something feels off, or if a new information challenges an old memory, lean into that curiosity. If you suddenly remember something, you should question it. Approach any recovered memories, especially those from suggestive therapies, with extreme skepticism as they carry a high risk of being fabricated. The third strategy involves recognizing unspoken themes. Imagine this list of words presented to you: bed, rest, dream, snore. It is easy for any one of us to remember the word sleep in a future recall text, even when sleep wasn't originally in the list. By explicitly recognizing that sleep is the theme of these four words, you can consciously then reject it as a word that was presented in the list. Have you ever heard of metacognition? In essence, it is thinking about how you think. It is about being more aware of your own memory processing. By actively engaging your metacognitive skills, like consciously asking yourself, where did I hear this? Or how confident am I in this memory? You can become much better at distinguishing real memories from false memories. While imaginations are great for creativity, you do not want to let your imaginations run wild. Vivid mental imagery can feel very real, but it doesn't equate to accurate representation of the event. So, what have we learned? Hypnosis is far from being a party trick. It is a tool that alters consciousness, enhances suggestibility, and shapes how we perceive and recall our experiences. But as we've seen, this comes with a risk, especially when it comes to memory. While hypnosis can feel or seem like it unlocks hidden truths, the evidence consistently suggests that it doesn't improve memory recall for any event. Remember, your memory is not a perfect playback device. It is reconstructive, malleable, and vulnerable to influence. And while hypnosis may seem like a gateway to deeper truths, it can lead us into the dangerous territory of false beliefs. I hope to see you in the next one.